Silence during communication or conversation is one of those things that no one really looks forward to, because typically silence is associated with awkwardness, feelings of uncomfortable, and also it may feel like you have hit a wall when you are communicating with somebody and you feel like you have nowhere else to go, nowhere else to say. What can I do to fill in that situation so that it makes everyone comfortable and gets you back on track? However, instead of perceiving it as being what has always it's been, which is the awkwardness, and what you've been led to believe, my hot take on silence is that it's one of the most powerful communication tools you have as a healthcare professional, and even more powerful than your words, I would say. Especially if you are an English as a second language healthcare professional, mastering the art of silence can be the very thing that transforms how your patients trust you and how well they connect with you. So in this video, I'm going to cover why silence is truly golden in communication, dispel some of the myths about silence, and give you some facts about what silence actually is and how you can incorporate that in your communication with your patients as a healthcare professional. Everybody, thank you very much as always for your ongoing engagement, support and presence. My name is Shweta. I'm the founder of Healthy Dynamics. We are a coaching practice that helps healthcare professionals from ESL as an English as a second language backgrounds who speak English at an intermediate or slightly above level, and who either work in an English speaking country or in an English speaking setting. So you could be in like an American hospital or a German hospital or something along those lines, despite you living in a part of the world where English is not the first language, and you would like to learn ways in which how you can communicate and connect and collaborate and work better with your patients in order for them to build trust with you, so that you get more referrals, better testimonials, and also progress in your career as a healthcare professional. Now, this is something that's not unfortunately taught to most healthcare professionals when they are pursuing their academic side and who are actually doing their practice in the very early days. And that's where I felt that I can step in and sort of give you guys a little bit of support and help based on my own experience. So if you fall under any of these categories, you absolutely have come to the right place. So this concept of silence is something that I came across quite recently in Dr. Chatterjee's podcast. As you all know, I listen to it quite often, and he was interviewing the communication specialist Jefferson Fisher. Again, I have mentioned Jefferson Fisher quite a few times in my videos and in my content on LinkedIn, and he's absolutely amazing. I will leave a link to that whole episode in the description box below. And while it was a very good interview, for a conversation went on for about 2 hours, what he highlighted and what I would like to highlight in this particular video is the importance and the power that lies within silence in communication, and how you can actually make the most of it and make it your best friend rather than your enemy when you are in communication with your patients. So why do we fear silence? So as a healthcare professional, particularly from an ESL background, you may often feel the need to fill every single gap that you have when communicating with your patients with words. Because if you don't do that, it makes them uncomfortable, but it makes you uncomfortable because you sort of feel like, oh, I feel incompetent, I feel unprepared, I don't know what I'm talking about, and it may come across as quite rude. Because the misconception overall is that silence equals ignorance or the lack of confidence or even the lack of respect. However, in reality, silence gives patients the space to process information, feel heard, and really share about what's going on with you as a healthcare professional, and it also helps you get your thoughts and get your ideas together as well when you are in consultation with patients. Now, in my day-to-day communication, this is when I used to work in healthcare, and even something that I do quite unconsciously even now, silence used to make me very, very uncomfortable, because I felt like if there was a moment of silence or if there was a moment of pause, even in everyday conversations, I used to feel very awkward. It's like, we call it awkward silence for a reason. I always felt the need to keep talking at the time, just so that, you diffuse that little bit of tension, you diffuse that awkwardness, and just take the conversation to the next level, or just keep it going. But then I realized I'm just doing this pointlessly. There's no real aim or reason behind it, because we're just going to go back to square one, and the earlier feelings of discomfort or tension is just going to resurface no matter what I do. So what I then realized is that, okay, this is teaching me something. This is teaching me how should I embrace this? How should I make the most of it? How should I not push it away? And how I can really befriend it so that I can communicate, collaborate, and form better connections with the people around me. And you can do the very same as a healthcare professional too. So, why is silence golden? So I'm going to give my own insights here, as well as cover very quickly on what Jefferson Fisher said in his interview with Dr. Chatterjee. Silence shows presence. It signals that you are with your patient, not rushing to the next question or the next task or the next thought. So you are really building that close space, and in therapy it's very common to say hold space for your patients to express themselves and articulate what exactly is going through their mind. But it's not just in therapy, it can exist in any other space within healthcare when you're working with patients. And it also encourages patients to open up, and the most important details actually come after a pause. So it gives them time to think through and process a lot of things before they can actually express or share with you what exactly is going through their mind. Quite recently, some of the content that I've been seeing amongst my new followers on LinkedIn is that a lot of them are pain management specialists, and one of the challenges that they are encountering is that their patient does not really know how to express not just the type of pain that they're suffering, but the symptoms and everything like that. And in a situation like that, whether you're a pain management specialist or a rheumatologist or anything along those lines, it can be very, very beneficial to incorporate silence, because it gives patients that thinking time to really process and come up with a much more clearer response when you ask them questions about their symptoms. So that can be a very, very good way in which you can utilize silence as well. And like I said, it gives you more time to think and respond more thoughtfully. And most importantly, silence can de-escalate very stressful and charged up and emotional situations. So whether it's situations of conflict or when a patient is very, very distressed, you give them space. So for example, I've mentioned in my past videos of how when you deliver bad news to a patient about a terminal illness or a miscarriage, or if someone has passed away, they couldn't save them, giving that opportunity of silence instead of just keep talking all over them can be a very good tool to help them come to terms with what has happened, which is very unfortunate, but get them to process that bad news and how they can move forward with that as well. One of the other interesting things that Jefferson Fisher mentioned in his interview was that silence cannot be misquoted, because if there is silence, you can't, if you're not saying anything, you cannot be misunderstood. You cannot people can't take you the wrong way because you're silent, so because you haven't said anything, you haven't given them any ammunition, so to speak. And you also obviously you put things on pause, and it can be when you are silent, especially in a high conflict situation, when you're stepping back and becoming more silent. It shows that the other person who may be the source of conflict or whatever and wants to turn things around can't manipulate you to do that when you are silent, because when you're talking or something like that, you can physically alter how what a person is saying or what a person is thinking. Whereas when you're silent, that manipulation becomes much harder. So you are much stronger when you are in that mode of silence. Now, one little caveat that I have to mention here is that when I say silence, I'm not talking about giving anyone the silent treatment. So what you don't do is stonewall or weaponize silence, so that when you're not getting your own way, and you are basically telling the patient, or the patient is telling you that I'm just putting a wall up because you said something that has really upset that has upset me, and I'm not getting what I want out of this conversation, so I'm just going to not say anything and give you the silent treatment to make you uncomfortable. I'm not talking about that, and that can be a way in which you can negatively use silence, and you can actually weaponize it. Now, Some of the common misconceptions about silence are as follows. If I stay quiet, they think I don't know what I'm doing, like I mentioned in the very beginning. But the reality is that when you combine silence with powerful body language, it actually conveys authority. So sometimes when you want to make a patient feel a certain way, so whether they feel comforted, whether they feel supported, instead of saying it, you can be silent and show it through your actions and how you demonstrate yourself. So as they always say, action speaks louder than words, and it's very true in this scenario. A thoughtful pause before speaking shows that you are considering what to say before you actually blurt out your actual response. Now, the other misconception is that silent means that I have lost control of the conversation. Whereas in reality, like I just mentioned, silence, if you use it correctly, that's the main thing, that you use it appropriately, correctly, and it gives you control because it lets the patient hold space, gives them space to process things, and it also gives the patient autonomy to guide the conversation, revealing what matters the most to them. Now, finally, you may also assume that patients are going to get uncomfortable if you don't speak. Yes, sure, it can be quite awkward in the very beginning, but they will eventually feel much more at ease and comfortable to open up and articulate much more deeply about what they're going through if you give them that space to be mentally clear. Now, how to use silence as a superpower? One of the very easy tried and tested methods that I have come across in order to do this is the 3-second rule. So after asking a question to a patient, whatever the question might be, pause for 3 seconds and don't rush to rephrase or fill in the space unless the patient asks for more information. It gives the patient that space to think and really process what is it that they're saying. And like I said, pair silence with open body language. But going back to this, so when you pair silence with open body language, it shows that you are interested, you're engaged, and you're listening actively. And use silence after delivering very vital key information. Now, this is obviously after you've explained in simple terms, medical terminology, concepts, and jargons to the patient, and give them the time to really comprehend and process everything that they've gone through. This applies the same for when you're going through diagnosis or different treatment plans. And also let silence invite emotions that the patient is experiencing. Now, if a patient in particular, if they're feeling very distressed or they're emotionally very heightened, hold space for them, because a quiet presence is much more comforting to them at that point. Especially, I remember, like I said, I may have mentioned this in my previous videos, when I was in the veterinary clinic when my last dog was being euthanized. The veterinary staff, when it was all done, they didn't say anything. They sort of let us, they just let us leave with her dead body without us, having to give any explanation or say anything. But they all looked at us, and we could see that they know what it feels like and what we're going through at that point. So, like I said in last week's video, where I said even using I understand, why that's a really bad idea, what you can do instead is actually just pause and be silent, because let that moment breathe, because your silence at that point gives weight to what they say, and it shows that you're actually taking them seriously. And really, why silence is very powerful for ESL healthcare professionals is that it takes the pressure off of you to perform in perfect English, because if you're not saying anything, you don't have no pressure to speak perfect English, and also gives you the right to find the space and time to use the right words and the right terminology instead of just rushing and risking miscommunication. And it also helps you build confidence when you get the idea and you're sure that silence doesn't make you look weak. It actually makes you much more composed. So just to wrap it up, silence isn't awkward, it's an invitation to help patients, make them feel heard, safe, and seen, and to enable them to share what really matters. So, if you're an ESL healthcare professional who wants to use tools like silence along with body language, tone, and authority to build deeper trust and authority with your patients, I'm going to leave a link to my quiz over here, which is your default communication persona quiz. It will help you discover your natural communication style and how you can leverage it in order to connect better with your patients. As always, if you want to stay more updated with the videos and content that I post here on LinkedIn, hit the subscribe button and the notification bell, and leave this video a like and your thoughts and comments in the comment section below. And as always, thank you very much for your time, attention, and presence. I shall see you next week.